Do I do? Oh,
It's live.
Because it does not all go well. After 17 years, it has created more problems for us in Nigeria. Our present extant constitution is an imposition of the people. The Supreme Legal Council that was not elected by anybody that does not respect any real parameter in its recruitment except seniority in the army. That was lopsided in terms of its geographical identity of members. It was the constitution, enacted it by the legislation. It was not subjected to a plebiscite, it was not subjected to a referendum. In there, you see, it's not attached to us because the people did not agree that the 1999 constitution is their constitution. We didn't vote for its approval.
This is the problem. This constitution can never give us progress. This constitution can never give us peace.
Minimum condition for re-entering, for renegotiating, even any form of union. Where we are now, that the union is at an end. Anybody who doesn't understand it will learn the hard way. That the constitution has been demised and is going to be decommissioned.
yeah, that's the end of that. Mr. Onyango, please introduce the spokesperson before we take the next broadcast. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, I want to use this opportunity to introduce our guest today, who is the keynote speaker and the spokesperson for NINAS. Is a person of Tony Nadi, a legal practitioner. Like I said, he's a spokesperson of NINAS. We are having him as a special guest today to break down this subject matter, which is defining the change we seek. Without further ado, I'll call on Mr. Tony Nadi to greet the house. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you, and welcome everybody. It's a great pleasure to be present at this time that Nigeria is searching frantically for direction. There is an impending countrywide protest. The government is running helter-skelter, intimidating who they can intimidate, luring who they can lure, bribing who they can bribe, and we cannot be surprised. The candidate that bought his way through the primaries, we saw at Eagle Square when the dollar was moving from delegate to delegate, 50,000, 60,000 per delegate. The candidate that bought his way with INEC, we saw the recklessness of INEC and how they jettisoned the rules both for the law and the constitution. Electoral law that required the transmission of results, real time, and then the constitution that required 25%, of the valid votes cast at the Federal Capital Territory. We saw when the matter went to the tribunal, that's the Court of Appeal, again, all the talk of how the justices were dealing with the matter. We had Mary Odili, retired Justice of the Supreme Court, telling us that things will happen around the election and that nobody should bring down the roof. We had her in Port Harcourt praising the lawyers that have become notorious for settling electoral disputes. Notorious in the sense that they had their ways of bringing candidates to be in agreement with presiding And so it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And so that candidate that could buy his way through everything began to bribe everybody in sight. The justices will receive their own palliative, 70 billion. The National Assembly received several rounds of palliative, including vehicles they bought for them, 160 million apiece, and all such things. Suddenly, student loan that was not thought through, just throwing bribe in every direction. We saw when they rented bishops. So this candidate that has emerged, the interregnum president of Nigeria, I use the word interregnum advisedly. Some people may think, oh, election has come and gone, and therefore he has become president. No. When you hear power and authority, this is critical. When you hear power and authority, power is always there. So some group of soldiers could come in and just take power, and then everybody begin to obey them, like we have seen several times in Nigeria. The Constitution also creates all the power. It creates the office of president, office of governor, the institutions, police, army, DSS, the court system, and all kinds of commissions here and there, agencies of government. That is always there. Then election is the mechanism by which the principals, the citizens now select who amongst the contending candidates and parties will go to manage that power for 4 years. That act of voting one instead of the other is the point at which authority is transmitted to invest that power in the one they have chosen. And so if you jumped in through the window, like the people who plot coup do at times, they jump in through the window and go and occupy the seat of power. All the institutions will be there. The guns will be there to molest people around and get them to obey you. The central bank will be there to appoint people to print currency for you. You could sell crude oil, all of that on the side of power. If you do not have authority, you do not have authority. And therefore, it is on account of the fact that the Supreme Court of Nigeria will not be allowed to sit above the Constitution that requires a certain minimum threshold for one person to become president and not the other. The Supreme Court of Nigeria, in jettisoning that requirement of 25% in the FCT, has left that election inconclusive. The outcome they declared, it doesn't matter what anybody say or thinks. The outcome they declared remains just what it is. They have managed to push their way to power, but that product left Nigeria in an interregnum. Yes, there's somebody in power, but it is an illicit arrangement through and through. Unless they announce to us that the Constitution 1999 is no longer the basis of Nigeria, then we can begin to, ask them, then on what basis are people governing? But if that Constitution is still the basis of Nigeria, and they jettison the requirement, and then coronate somebody president, we're not even talking about who won and who did not win. We're talking about meeting the minimum threshold prescribed by the Constitution. And so we have arrived at the point where that brigandage has brought us to where there's a free fall of the economy and of the union. The fault lines of Nigeria are showing everywhere, on every front. Security has gone far worse than it used to be. As invaders, Fulani invaders are pouring in, causing havoc all over the place. Everywhere you turn, calamity. Hunger is in town. But we warn the people who are going to the election under that constitution that will allow all these things we are talking about. Because if we had a constitution, no group of crooked people can come to be stronger than all of us. It was because we allowed a constitution that bent all the rules to be the basis of our union and our democracy. here's what we got now. If we do not stand up, if we do not come out of our foolishness and do something to topple that constitution, I tell you, what we see now is still a child's play. Please, I yield the mic for the moderator to continue. Thank you for coming. We'll get into it soon. Moderator, please.
Much pleasure to invite the NENA spokesperson to shed more light onto this topic, defining the change we seek, personnel or structure. Please, Mr. Nadi, you have the floor. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, and welcome everybody once more. It happened, and I'm in the field, and almost not coming into the meeting, but at the last minute, we're able to get started. What we're dealing with right now is a system that refuses to reason, and the people that refuse to listen. Because if the people had listened all this while, they would have found better answers to the situation that is now overwhelming them. NINAS have those answers and actually made the answers available in a manner that will have solved all these problems. At the time in 2020, we rolled out the first measure to say, let's leave elections alone and go to solve this problem. The people did not listen. The government did not reason. Now, the two sides are in distress. The ones who want to see change. The government doesn't see anything. They have no problem at all. Every month, they gather and share $1 trillion plus. And as they are sharing, the senators are sharing, the state governors are sharing. Now the local government chairman too, 812 governments gather every month to share. Of course, the NDA and all the bureaucracies they create are those all those three tiers and all those three arms. So we can see that the executive is now the head of the trinity of executive, legislative, and judicial arms of government. What should have been the checks and balances? What should have been the separation that will make sure that everybody gets what is due to them in the system and the union has been more or less washed away by a rapacious federal government with flawed characters in the other two arms. Hopelessly flawed characters in the other two arms. You see what the Supreme Court has become. You see what the kind of even Robert Stamp is now a better evil to deal with compared with what Godswill Akpabio and his Senate have become in the hands of this executive. And so, unless we become clearer in our minds to define the change we seek and the mechanism for obtaining it, we must know what we are rejecting. We must know what we want in place of what we are rejecting. We must know where we are now and where we want to get to. For those who are planning protest or revolution, whatever they call it, this is the time to pull back and define the change you seek. Everybody can see there's corruption everywhere. And you just jump out and say you want an end to corruption. How? With a constitution that creates massive avenues for corruption and comprehensively protects the beneficiaries of grand corruption by the immunity provisions he put in place. You say you want an end to insecurity. You want an end to mass impoverishment. But you are not asking, how did we come about this insecurity? NINAS has an answer, that it is on account of the unitary constitutional arrangement that put the arms and ammunition on the constituencies that makes it impossible for those who live in that insecurity to organize their own security. And no matter who becomes president, no matter how well intentioned such a person may be, no matter how desirous such a person may be to see an end, it's not going to work, because the constitutional arrangement makes it impossible. As it is with insecurity and corruption that the constitution creates and protects, so it is with all the other things that everybody is lamenting, including bad leadership, bad governance. The electoral process is centralized, so INEC can sit in Abuja and decide what will happen everywhere, irrespective of the 23 elections, presidential elections particularly. And so every single thing, we have looked at all the demands that the people who are talking about protest are putting forward. All of those things they want change are flowing from that constitution. There's one of them, a politician who probably looking towards 2027, and so he locked everything together, changed constitution. And then in the same person that price of this, restore this and that, so that they haven't thought through, they don't know what constitution is, and they think they know. Is it by going to write another constitution over your head that they change constitution and just do it and then proceed to another election which you want to contest in? That is on the side of those who are planning to protest. Again, on the side of the government that is now worried and looking out for how to find, just saying, no, you can't come and start trouble now. You can't come and start trouble now. Whereas you were heartless in doing what you are doing to destroy the life of the people. You share trillions amongst yourself. You share billions amongst yourself. You cruise around it, but and you don't care that the people who own that money cannot pay, and you think they're going to remain obedient to you. And so, again, NINAS is telling the government, the two sides are completely refusing to address, to acknowledge what the problem is. The ones who are planning to protest now did not listen when they went to election under that constitution that has produced this calamity. They want to protest against now. Because if they had listened, there wouldn't have been an election. We will have gone into transition. That constitution will have been out of their life. That constitution that is responsible for everything, tormenting them, will have been out of their life. And the government too, in 2020, December 16, we rolled out something that provided a framework, a pathway, a mechanism for addressing this problem that's a much bigger problem. We get them 90 days notice to say, let us go and solve this problem. Our quarrel is not with the people in government house. Our quarrel is with the constitution by which they will have to govern. Because that constitution makes everything good impossible. You can't have rule of law under a constitution of apartheid. You can't have any good governance. You can't have any kind of economic progress. Because all the means of production, all the factors of production are confiscated by that constitution into the hands of this Apache federal government that has now been joined gleefully by the executive and judicial branches. And so the two sides that are gearing up for whatever will happen from August 1, NINAS is talking to the two to say there is yet a middle ground that can be pursued now to solve this problem. that there must be a commitment to solving the problem. The ones who are planning to protest, who are not talking about that constitution, that is part of the problem. They are dishonest as the government that is refusing to listen to what it will take to solve the Nigeria that is now in disarray. It is the unitary constitution of Nigeria that is responsible for everything that has brought Nigeria to where it is. We are talking to the government, we are talking to the protesters to be. And so the first charge is to that government that is now sending DSS to go and arrest people for them in Sokoto and Kano. And the lunatics that are pointing fingers, the one that are spokesmen of president, pointing fingers to Peter Obi that is organizing riot. But they are no less blameworthy than the Peter Obi that went to contest the election under the constitution. Whatever happens to all of them will be so richly deserved. If this angry mob get on the streets, whatever they do to the people who have kept them in misery will be very richly deserved. Again, if the government in the kind of panic and pandemonium they brought upon themselves for refusing to listen about the constitution that was untenable, from which they've been drawing a fraudulent constitution that ruined the lives of the people, from which they've been drawing power, and which they subscribe to and swear to defend and operate and govern by. If in this pandemonium they open fire like they did with the NSAS, again, human beings are going to die, maybe in large numbers. Eventually, some people may take places on borrow from. And so Ninas is standing in the middle to say, government, don't say you are not told that the solution to this problem is for you to make an acknowledgement the type South Africa did in 1990 with apartheid. That is the only safe pathway left. You must now, that 5-point proposition of Ninas that says we must now acknowledge that the Nigeria that is in this distress is happening because of the unitary constitutional arrangement. The government must now acknowledge that reality. And that constitutional arrangement, that unitary constitutional arrangement, is responsible for all the agitations in the land, all the dysfunctions of Nigeria, all the corruption that is happening, all the infrastructure that is decayed, and therefore all the anger that is now looking for avenues for venting. That government must commit to the commissioning that constitution like the apartheid government did in 1999. Expressly commit to the whole state decommissioning of that constitution. That government must expressly, immediately commit to suspending any discussion relating to further national elections under that constitution. That's item 3. That government must also expressly commit to allow the owners of the sovereignties that are confiscated by shares and bigger debt into this union to go and discuss their union, the being of the union, whether they want to be in the union, and if yes, on what terms. In the 2-stage procedure listed in the Ninas 5-point proposition. And then finally, to make a time-bound announcement, they must now tell those who are planning to come to look for change by all means. They must now tell them that we are going to do X, Y, Z. It will take only one announcement. That announcement can be made inside July of 2024. That announcement can come in a matter, it shouldn't take more than 10 minutes. Gentlemen, instead of all this stupid talk we hear every day, people are accusing other people. Some even, the people in government are saying it's your position that is organizing People are dying. They are the ones dying. People are hungry. They are the ones hungry. Are you going to suggest that they are being persuaded to claim that they are hungry when they are actually hungry? Are you going to claim that being persuaded to say that they are insecurity when they are the ones living in that insecurity? And you sit in the refuge camp of regional renegades they call Abuja, thinking you have gone to heaven, where the ones you left in hell cannot reach. I'm sorry for all of you, because those places from where you come, claiming to represent people in Abuja, eventually the people you left in the mess are going to have to look for you wherever they find you. They can't come to Abuja, they are going to look for wherever. And so, Ninas is addressing the two sides. The ones who are trying to protect, do you now acknowledge, will you now say loud, like Ninas is doing now, that this constitution is the problem that has to be solved? That your life is upside down because of this constitution, and therefore that your demand is an immediate transition, so that all of those things that are responsible for the corruption, responsible for the bad governance and the insecurity and all the dysfunctions we are talking about, electoral malfeasance, is not the electoral reform that will solve that problem. It is to unbundle that constitution, to jettison it completely, and work out a new arrangement that can work. You have to take items on the exclusive list. The refineries, we hear the talk and bull story of Dangote and how he came about this refinery. You lock down the capacity for refining with that constitution. You lock down the people's assets. All the assets for economic development are locked down in that 68 items of exclusive list. The owners of the assets are no longer the owners. A roguish, illicit federal government has become the owners of their assets. The assets that were the assets of the regions and federated have been taken over by an illicit federal government. All the power to work those assets are locked down in that exclusive list. Electricity is not rocket science. Everybody can provide their own electricity. Why do you lock down the capacity with that constitution? By putting it on the exclusive list. What is there in refining? Biafra ran for 3 years. Vehicles were moving inside Biafra. They refine their petrol. Why has it become impossible for Nigeria that export 3 million barrels of crude oil every day to refine their petrol? And you sit in Abuja telling them talk and bull story about how Dangote will produce the petrol for them. You already took their oil and gas by decree away from them. You hand it over to somebody to go and refine for them. You took away the right to refine. I can find anybody can find people who are prepared to set up refineries. Why is it impossible for everybody who has the capacity to go and get license? Then you license somebody in monopoly. You took money from the treasury. Were we not here when they talked about how you gave him, how Central Bank gave him money and he has started paying back the money? Now he says no money was given. Now they have 20%. Now they have 7% instead of 20%. Nothing can be built on this foundation upon which you are building now. So I have no sympathy at all for the government that has to find the answer now. I have no sympathy at all for the people who are now planning to protest, because they refuse to listen to know where their problems are coming from, so that they can make a demand that ties to that problem, ties to the source of that problem. That was what NSAS did. We told them, this is the problem. This is what if you want the problem to resolve, the demand must be, how do we extinguish the source of the problem? We have identified the source. We have identified the mechanism for extinguishing that source. The decrees in them will not let them reason. They want to go and become senator and governor and president under a constitution that guarantees the misery we see. And so, to the two sides, we say, government, This is what you can do now. Because even the ones organizing the protest, NINAS is in receipt of an invitation to address the prospective protesters, the proponents of the protest. It will be on X space, that's on Twitter. Twitter space, Saturday, 27th July 2024, 7 p.m. And so information is already all over the place. And the NINAS team will be there to address those who are planning to come and say no to what is happening to them. And NINAS will be inviting them to take back from all of those things they've been writing all over the place. The one Isa Ebuba says he wants good governance. That's what he's coming to. He's giving a deadline. He must provide good governance. Like a lunatic. Like a lunatic. How would the good governance come from a constitution that guarantees the opposite?
It will come from heaven.
You were told before you went to election, you were busy mobilizing for PVC. PVC to election under a constitution in which the winner will swear to defend and uphold the atrocity that is in black and white, called 1999 Constitution. Is that not dishonesty? Is there anything we told you will happen if you went to that election that has not happened now? Why are you still unable to reason? Then we saw the 12-point demand, the one they say end the bad governance. How? None of them wants to, apart from the dishonest one that put a state constitution for us, as if constitution is just another document that president can write or anybody can write in one corner and throw out. Say, okay, we change for you the type of nonsense Bobo and Osabokoba was trying to do. The kind of nonsense Benjamin Carter said he was going to do. And so, NINAS says to the two sides. NINAS is saying to the people planning to protest, as well as the government that is planning to contend, that the solution to the situation is to acknowledge the problem of Nigeria for what it is and go to transition right now. That transition in place of election is the mechanism for going to the solution to that problem. If the government refuses, or if the protesters prefer to work with their ignorance that is written all over their demands right now, like Elsa's demands, if they prefer to continue in blindness, where there's sight, continue in ignorance where there's knowledge, NINAS will be watching them. But when the blood will begin to flow, it will be remembered that we told them to rework their demands back to what the problem is. It is that constitution 100%, and their demands must be one in which they are saying, this is the problem, this is the solution, you must now commit. If that is what they're asking for, the government has no room to maneuver other than to put an answer to that demand. The government cannot pretend that the constitution is not the problem, because by their own action they have acknowledged. The government cannot pretend, they cannot say, oh, we know the constitution is the problem, but allow us keep using it like that. Because the protesters should now be asking, from which instrument is the government drawing the power to govern right now? Right now. Because that constitution has been shown to be legitimate. We went to court as well as 2007. Nobody will listen. Everybody was carrying on as if they had other better plans for how to turn Nigeria towards the heaven. Look at where we are now. That $1 will be above 1,500. That people cannot farm Every time we leave the problem, oh, let us go and get the money and give to farmer. When the farmlands are occupied by insecurity that we know where it's coming from, Fulani conquest agenda, we are not, we can't open our mouth and say it. And it is because this constitution empowers them to do what they're doing, that they're doing it. So you are responsible for your own damnation. You are responsible for your death. You are responsible for your impoverishment. For refusing to reject that constitution in the manner you have been invited to. How did South Africa solve the apartheid? Were the blacks in South Africa handling to go and contest the election under the apartheid? Imagine what Chris Hani would have done for any black in 1985 who decides to go to contest a little election under apartheid constitution. That is what all of you, all the political parties, all of them who are now saying there is no opposition in the presidential system, you are boasting that you are head of, you are leading opposition. Opposition to what? You subscribe to a constitution that brings death upon the people, and you say you are going to take them to production. Let those who know where to find people be confronting with this matter. That this constitution to which him and his party subscribe, he's been in ABGA, he's been in PDP, he's been in Labour Party. Nobody knows where he will go next. He's still talking about going to contest the election in 2027. And people are holding meetings, actually holding meetings with him and planning that. But as one of the videos, one of the broadcasts that were played today, the battle line has been drawn. For those who will be on the side of that constitution, all of those who subscribe, all the political parties subscribe to that constitution. All of those who have sworn to defend and uphold that constitution subscribe. All of those who are not now on the side of let us terminate this sort of misery to the people, they will be on the side of that constitution. On the other side will be those who say enough is enough. Let us extinguish the source of our problems. Let us turn off this tap from which flows corruption, impunity, insecurity, impoverishment, everything. And for the government, again, we say, you know what the problem is. But you cling on to that constitution because it gives you the billions you share every month. You cling to that constitution because it gives you all kinds of things that are not available to the rest of the people. But the people are coming. Let that be what you take away from this broadcast. The people are coming. Sorry for you if they get to you before you come to this proposition that can set the day, that can avert this looming anarchy. You can't ask people to go and endure their pain while you continue to finance 812 government. And the people cannot be complaining about their lack of everything when they are not demanding the decommissioning, immediate transition for the decommissioning of that constitution. That will be the only thing that will come. Anybody demanding any other thing ahead of that, the 5-point proposition, because you can't say, oh, go and change constitution. When there's a mechanism that can compel it, tell me what the government will say. If you don't, if you put forward a watertight set of demands, are they going to say constitution is not the problem in the first demand? Are they going to say they won't decommission it, they won't accept the decommissioning as the solution? Are they going to say they go to another election if you say you don't want to go? Are they going to say it's no longer you, the owners of sovereignty, that will discuss? Or are they going to say, let us do it at our own time? If those who are planning the protest will listen now, if they want any explanation like this Saturday in that time we'll be explaining, if any group wants any explanation, we'll be available to come to explain to them, so that they can leave aside all the other distractions that will provide the escape routes for their tormentors. If they will put forward the demands that can solve their problems, then Ninas will be there to see who will say it can't be so, to see who will open fire on them. If you don't make the right demand, they are going to open fire on you, and the heavens will not fall because they'll be standing on the authority of that constitution to do so. It will then be your fault that you made yourself out of ignorance and greed of some who know, but who are misleading others who don't know. It will be because you chose to work with your ignorance or your greed that you are fired upon. But if you raise the question, if you raise in a unified voice the question about that constitution, if your demand is the termination of the operation of that constitution, then we can tell you that nobody is going to find any mechanism for opening fire on you. Because if they do, they will be their own, they are already standing on illegitimacy and upon illegitimacy. If you raise that question and they fire on that question, provided you do not change, provided you do not model up what the demand should be, you can't say, okay, let's put the and put the one of people who are planning to contest the election so that everything will be longer on the list. If you add anything to it, we leave you with all of what you are doing. If you don't add or subtract, then we will be there to see who is going to open fire on you. I think enough said. The government, this is the time to come to transition that accommodates you. The protesters, this is the time to make the demand that can protect you. If any of the two sides decide to do another thing, we'll be here to take the inventory, to count the bodies. We stop here.
Mr. Yago,
Okay.
please, you have the floor now.
That's a wonderful exposition. And now, having listened to you, can you tell us how we can achieve the NINA's 5-point proposition? Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Very quickly, let this meeting be a business meeting. We've listened to all the theory. We are now in the practical. People are planning to come to insist on changes. And therefore, the theme of this meeting is defining the change we seek and distilling the demands that will deliver that change. That's the corollary. That's the concluding. That's why we chose the theme. Defining the change we seek and distilling the demands that will deliver that change. And so, when we hear about the 5-point demand of NINAS, it is because NINAS had taken, like doctors would do, NINAS took the trouble to first diagnose everything we saw, everything we are seeing in Nigeria. There are symptoms. Everybody can see the corruption. The whole world is looking at it. Everybody can see the impunity. Everybody can see the hunger that has come. Everybody can see the lack of petroleum for a country that exports crude. So all the inefficiencies and dysfunctions and things that are upside down, everybody can see the elections that are always flawed. Everybody can see the impunity and the decayed infrastructure. Those are symptoms. Now, those symptoms are the immediate prompt for this protest. And on going into such an undertaking, the interest of NINAS is to make sure that the demand, because it is the demand of the protesters that will define the outcome of their endeavor. We saw the answers when it came. Imagine if at that time the entire country was locked down. Imagine if the demand of the answers was to say everything gone wrong with Nigeria, including the centralized police arrangements that has produced the SARS, Special Anti-Robbery Squad, whatever, is coming from that constitutional arrangement. The electricity that is not there, for which factories, production factories have moved out of Nigeria, big companies that will employ people. So unemployment right there, coming from that constitution because of electricity. The petroleum products, particularly petrol and diesel, for the public supply of electricity that we don't have, again, it has become epileptic. You don't know the price at which it will come. The currency that is falling yo-yo. So everything that has been risen for the situation of these same people that are planning to protest is flowing from that constitution. The corruption is one in which the spare key of the treasury is handed to the people who are supposed to be governing. There's no other country in the world where it is so. Then we have 812 governments that they smuggled into the constitution in the first place. It was 5 regions, 4 regions and 1 federal government that was there. Then they began to break the regions all the way to 36 states, seizing all the economic assets. This every single thing. The Niger Delta that is crying about their oil and gas, it is the constitution by the exclusive list that took the oil and gas. The ones who are crying about corruption, it is because the constitution creates avenues for corruption and comprehensively protects the beneficiaries of corruption. So we're only saying that you need to understand clearly the nexus, the connection between the constitution and these symptoms we are seeing. NINAS is telling you positively, and that will be the compass for finding your way in this dark jungle that we are caught in. NINAS is telling you positively that every problem you can point to, these major problems, corruption and impunity and failure of everything, for every one problem you can point to, we will show you the section of the constitution, of that constitution that is responsible for it, starting with the agitations. For those who say they are fed up with Nigeria, they want to go into Odua Republic or Biafra Republic, or Jordan say resource control. Every single thing you lament about in Nigeria is flowing from that constitution. Bad leadership. How can you get good leadership when criminals are the ones organizing your elections? They process the ones who can challenge them out of the race. You can't become a senator or governor or house member or at the center or at the state. You can't become anything if you're going to go through election without INEC. Who is INEC? We have a federal government that have been hijacked since 1966. We don't have a federation. So the bogus, the illicit federal government we have is basically being controlled by a tiny invader population. Go and find out who and who is in charge of what. And so you can't, those people will not process anybody who will come to challenge them to become governor in your state, to become senator in your state. That's why you have the kind of lunatics that emerge all over the place as the preferred. Look at Imo and how they got the current governor, because there's an INEC sitting in Abuja. The security that is broken down everywhere is simply because the arms and ammunition are on that exclusive list. There is nothing that can change that. There's nothing that can improve that, except that constitution goes down. The refineries that were being told all kinds of tales by moonlight is simply because refineries are on that exclusive list. No matter what you do, unless that constitution goes down, products will not be available, because since it's that illicit federal government that is in charge of everything, is the day they give you electricity that you get, the day they give you petrol that you get, the day they give you security that you get, whatever they do with you at election is what you get. Corruption is Nigeria is a criminal enterprise under a constitution that lied, that we submitted ourselves into. We are kidnapped into this place. We are held at gunpoint in this place. And so it has to be clear to those who are, going to this protest, the nature of the problem, so that they can set demands that will compel the government to go to the solution. The government knows what the problem is. Make no mistake about that. The one who is president now came from our fold. He was in Nadeco. If anybody should know, he was as governor in Lagos State when the peoples of Nigeria had to meet to decide how they want to proceed. He was very much involved. When Obasanjo began to do what he did, so he's not a stranger to any part of this discussion. But like Soyinka, his old friend, did tell everybody later, he said they understand everything until they get to government house. That's what has happened there. And so they know that these things will not change, that these things are caused by the constitution. All the political parties know, even the ones who have not gone to government house, like Peter Obi, all the political parties subscribe to that constitution. And the people who go to vote, they all know that you don't know that constitution is the reason your life is upside down. So they leave you in your ignorance. They set up those who will block you from knowing. Your church leaders, your general overseers of these big churches across the land, Ninas can report to you that they all know, because we engage them repeatedly. But they are on the side of what will benefit them. They don't care whether you die, because they mobilize you to go to vote at the election in which the winner will govern with the constitution that render you the slave you are, that impoverish you massively, that render your security just non-existent. The media knows, but they don't want you to know, because most of the owners of the media are the ones sharing the billions and the trillions. Go and find out who owns every one of those platforms. So the church leaders, the political parties, the media houses, the NGOs and civil society people, the labor movement, they all know that they are more interested in keeping things the way they were, because that is where their benefits come from. But that is also where your impoverishment, your misery, and everything you lament comes from. And so if that constitution is the tap from which all these evils are flowing, corruption, insecurity, mass poverty, agitations, system failure, impunity, election malfeasance, hopelessness across the land, infrastructural decay, economic freefall, every single thing, like I've listed some already, comes from specific provisions of that constitution intended to bring the outcome you are seeing now. Otherwise, why would the constitution, I'm sure many of us will be hearing it for the first time, that the constitution absolves the government of responsibility towards you, the citizen, in section 6, subsection 6C. All the good things of life are listed in chapter 2 for the citizen. Security and welfare. And you find characters like Falana jump to TV every day. Olusegun goes to 5 cases. Government is failing in its primary duty. That is on one side. Whereas in section 6, section 6C, that entire chapter 2 is nullified and rendered, discretionary to those in government house. So bottom line, the government does not owe you any kind of obligation, including for welfare and security. Confront any lawyer you know to say, is it true that government does not owe us any obligation? As all the good things listed, equal treatment, good school, good hospital, non-discrimination, Everything good you can imagine that should go to citizen is listed, but it is nullified in one small corner. The lawyers in the land know, the politicians know, but they know you don't know. And so they go to TV to tell you that government is failing. Government is not failing, Jack. Government is doing exactly what the Constitution permits them to do to you. Because it is in that same vein that they put appropriation provisions that give them the spare key to the treasury. The president in section 81, 82, the governors in section 121, 122. The appropriation provisions is such that they put figures that allow them to take all the money in the treasury the following financial year. And so they support them too with immunity in section 308, that you can't question them while they're in the place. So if what I'm telling you now, which now covers everything we have on the list of all the demands, whether it's the one of 14 points or the one of 12 points or the one of Buba that wants good governance, the rule of law is ruled out. Good governance is ruled out. Corruption is, fertilized and protected. That's the beneficiaries of grand corruption protected. And so if
Are you there, sir? We can hear you. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but I think maybe the network knocked him off. No, we're in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So we'll just wait for a while.
Okay, let's give him some time.
ended this security, because the thing that will replace it, the reason we have what we have in that constitution now is that we did not make it. We, the people of Nigeria, solemnly resolved to live in unity forever according to what is written into this constitution. If we made that constitution, we will not make all those provisions that will hand us over to our enemies to own and to manage as they like, to kill us, because the guns are in their hands, the judicial system in their hand. Everything that the economic assets of everybody is now confiscated by that exclusive list. Whether you are talking about the oil and gas of the eastern side, or the ports of Lagos, or the bitumen of Ondo, or the limestone of Benue, whatever it is, the gold of Ogbomosho, all those things are taken by that constitution in its exclusive list. So the means of production, you don't have the materials, you don't have the power to even buy. They say, oh, electricity, you can now do small in the state. If you want to generate electricity in River State, for instance, or the one Baton Rouge is doing in Aba, you still require the gas that is still on the exclusive list. You can't go and dam a river, again, it's on the exclusive list in the way they defined it. So you can't, you have the capacity to generate electricity, but you are not allowed to generate. You have the power to refine. You can buy crude oil and refine. The power is not there to do so. You can organize your security far better than anybody who is in faraway place. You are not allowed to do so because the guns you need are taken away. But the governors are happy. They are not complaining at all, because they are given their own share of your blood. Every month they go and take 30 billion, 40 billion. The senators and house members are happy. They take 50, 60 million every month. The commissioners are happy. The House of Assembly members are happy. The local government chairmen are happy. Whether they now get direct or indirect, the important thing is that they are all loaded on your head to share all of among themselves, all of what Nigeria can claim to be the Commonwealth. And so it is that constitution that they used to lock you out, keep you where you are, while they grow in leaps and bounds. And you shrink to this point now where we're being reduced to a margery. You see all over the internet, the pictures, the videos of how people have been, the rice, there's all kinds of things that we have become a margery for a country that can transform the entire Africa if we were to utilize 1/4 of our, what God put in this space in terms of materials and human resources. But it is that constitution by which they hijacked our sovereignty that they have used to lock us down, and they're sharing our blood right in our view, pointing guns at us, intimidating us. And so if that is the problem and the solution is turning off the tap, that is taking down that constitution, because you will immediately replace the contents with what you prefer. The question of union itself, all the ones who are agitating that they don't want to be here, if the constitution goes down, then they're on their way to wherever they want to be. They can go to another meeting and rework and become a federation in some way that excludes people who do not consider human life sacrosanct. And so we now know the problem for sure. We now know the solution to turn off the tap, not by amendment. Anybody who is still talking about amendment is completely ignorant, or anything that will be done by National Assembly. National Assembly is a product of that constitution. It is the owners of the sovereignty, the ones who are federating, that can write their union agreement. That is what a constitution is. It is exclusive to them. It is when they have written a constitution that they will now create all these institutions, including the National Assembly and all the other institutions, army, police, central bank, everything, Supreme Court, everything else is a creation of that constitution. And so, since you are the one who ought to have made that constitution, and you did not make it, and they put your signature on it, that is what NINAS have been working to take down. And we have delegitimized the document. That's why the government is struggling. You saw them trying to write another one from the back door. You saw Fagbonda the other day. You saw Benjamin Carlo running his mouth the other time. You saw Emeka Anyoko and his, what do they call them, patriots, gather in Lagos to say, whoa, go and write another constitution. No, writing of constitution is the third step. The first step is identify those who want to federate. We the people. You must identify the we the people. If you don't, there's nothing that can follow from that. The business is at an end. Who are the people who own the land that you aggregate to call Nigeria? The Yoruba have their Yoruba land. The sovereignty belongs to them. Ijo have their Ijo land. Sovereignty belongs to them. Tiv, Berob, Bini, Urobo, Idoma, all of them have their lands. So you hear Yoruba land, Ijo land, Igbo land, Ishekiri land, all through the length and breadth of Nigeria. But the people controlling everything everywhere. Does anybody know where Fulani land is? And so we are talking to the protesters so that they can know the field they are going to and shape their demands. The solution to the problem is to turn off the tap. How do we turn off the tap? We are getting to where the demand has to now be shaped. How do we turn off the tap? By the way, let me report, NINAS is glad that finally some of the organizers of protests are now, they have put the scrapping of the 1999 Constitution as number one on their list of demands. I saw a young man, Deji Adeyanju, on Arise TV last night, when they said, okay, what is the solution? What do we do now? What is the solution to the problem? He said everything is tied to the Constitution. That is, they now realize that everything they're complaining about is about the Constitution, is flowing from the Constitution. So how do we take down the Constitution? That's why I say this meeting is a business meeting. Now listen, if you get the point I'm about to make now, it will immediately land you in where you know exactly what to do, and you know exactly where you will land, no matter what the government thinks. The mechanism for taking down that Constitution, NINAS had considered all the options. You can go and stage a coup, which has happened many times, and say, oh, constitution now suspended, like they did in 1966. At the end of it, it doesn't lead you anywhere except to get the owners of the land to agree to be in union and to define the terms of that union. You can go and do the type of commotion we saw in Somalia and elsewhere, bomb down everywhere. We don't agree anymore. The vultures and the rest of the world will come and share whatever they find, take away whatever they can take away from here. But Ninas of all the options decided and settled for targeting the life of that constitution, like a clinical surgery, targeting the life of that constitution that is renewed every 4 years by election. Listen carefully. The constitution is an inanimate object. It doesn't execute itself. It doesn't operate itself. It's just another booklet. But because of the powers that flow from it, you have the operators, the ones who become president and governors, the political parties that field candidates and all of that. But election is the mechanism by which the life of that constitution is renewed every 4 years. Because, like I already explained before, the power is there. Nigeria is always there, the landmass. The police is always there, even on election day. If election is inconclusive, the police is there, the institutions are there, the courts are there, the army is there, the central bank is there, the civil servants are there spending money. You saw when Buhari came, for 6 months, he couldn't form a government. Everything was flowing. And so, it is by election that constitution receives validation for another 4 years. Because the operators will then come, you, the voter, will come to select. And that right to select who will be mandated, who will be authorized. That is the mandate you hear. Mandate. It is who amongst these thieves. I call them thieves because they all subscribe to a fraudulent constitution as basis of Nigeria. All of them, PDP, APC, Labour Party, ABGA, Action Congress, all of them subscribe to that constitution without exception. And so, they lure you. They send their friends who operate the churches to mobilize you to come and vote. It is that voting. It is that voting that renews the life of that constitution, so that the people you now, whoever they now say have won among the people you voted, is sworn in. What is that swearing in? They come to swear to defend and uphold, governed by that constitution. And so they immediately step into their immunity to begin their impunity. They immediately step into their monthly allocation of 30 and 40 billion for some of the governors. They immediately step into their benefit of guaranteed salary of 50, 60 million. The rest of you that went to do that voting, go back to your misery, which can get worse, like we have seen from the last election. Now, because that constitution, you now know for sure, you didn't know before, you now know for sure that constitution was designed to kill you, was designed to impoverish you, because it takes everything from you, the one God gave you, the one Nigeria could have given you. And so, what Ninas has decided to do is to target that exercise, to say, those who will die, those who will suffer, those who will be impoverished, the millions, the 220 or 30 million people, because all of those in government house, the people who get sworn in after election, just about 1,500 people. All these 2023 elections, 2027 elections, at the end of it all, one president, one vice president, 36 governors and their deputies. Be counting with me. 109 senators, 360 House members. Then on the average, 20, 25 members of some of them 30. So let us take an average of 25 for the state houses of assembly across board. When you multiply, let us even take it to 30. Say 30 times 36. That is all the House of Assembly members in your state. 360 plus 109 for National Assembly. Then the 36 governors and their deputies. When you put all those things together, they do not come to more than 1,500 people that drag these 230 million people to go to vote, to go to validate an instrument that guarantee the misery of all, but the opulence of the few that will go to power. And then they have immunity. You can't question them why they are there. They have all the security in the world. You don't have any. And so Ninas then says, why can't we say, like Ninas have been saying across the last, since after 1999 election, we raised this issue. We went to court in 2007 to say, this constitution is a fraud, this constitution is untenable, this constitution is the reason our life has been upside down and it will not get better. But those who suffer under that constitution didn't pay attention. Oh, it is our turn to be president. Our brother will be president. Are there Yoruba people who are going to marketplace? The market forces are waiting for you in the market. When you hear market forces, it is that woman selling gari. It is that man selling beans. It is that young man selling meat. It is that young lady selling spaghetti. Or the malam that sells yam. Those are the market forces. The market forces are waiting for you. Or the conductor that will tell you how much to pay when you come to board his vehicle. Those are the market forces. Those market forces are not going to ask you whether you are from one part or the other. Those market forces will not ask you whether you are Christian or Muslim. And so it is your choice to go. There's no other way for them to access power, to ascend to. That is why when the elections are coming, they can come and kneel down and fry akara with you and dance around with you and make sure that they throw things at you that will make them say, well, this one is, we know they are all bad, but this one is a bit better. At the end of the day, the constitution already settled your damnation. And so you went in 2003. You went in 2007. You went in 2011, 15, 19. Then the people who knew what the problems were and who had organized the owners of the land, the Nigeria, the nationalities. From the time we went to Pronaco, we finished discussing what could have become the replacement for the constitution they imposed and put our signature in forgery. Everybody ignored it, carried on with whatever they chose to do. Now you've gone how many times? From 1999? 6, 7 times? Let's even leave the one of 99 that Absalom and Co. were playing their pranks. And so we came to 2020 December to say, gentlemen, we have sorted out everything that needs to be sorted out to take down this constitution. The only role you have to play is to tell those who have been tormenting you, you will not go to validate the life of that constitution one more time in 2023. We went from coast to coast. We went from forest to city center. We went from one part to the other. We went to the churches. We went to the bar association. We went to the NGOs, all those ones that say, oh, wise panel, electoral reform. All of them are criminals that ought to be liquidated in public space by stoning. Anybody who had come to tell you about the electoral reform is a criminal that ought to, if you allow him to escape when next he comes to you, it is your fault, because they are the agents of those people who are sharing your blood. They are their agents. They know you don't know, and they lure you to come to vote. What is the end point of your vote? That constitution survives another 4 years. Then you go back to a worse condition. Go and plot the graph and see how your life had turned, whether it had ever gone up in any steady direction other than going down steadily. And so we say, even now, taking the life of that constitution out is for this protest to say that they will not accept this constitution as basis of union. And the next thing will then be, how does that begin to happen? Therefore, they will not go to another election. That is, we will not go to another election under this constitution as a demonstration of our rejection of that constitution. If you reject that constitution and you are going to election under it, are you not being dishonest to yourself? Sowore knows this. Many of the people who come to deceive you, Utomi knows this, Peter Obi knows this. All of those people you have been following in one party flag or the other, they all know this. Any one of them who tells you doesn't know, call us so that we can send you evidence of when we went to show them, without exception. The ones in the National Assembly, the ones who have been governors, anybody who have been governor or senator from at least 2007. If they tell you they don't know about what we are saying, tell them we say it's a lie. And if you give us their name, we'll go and show you what transpired with them. The church leaders know. So what to do right now is to say, we will not accept this constitution as basis of union going forward. All the other demands, like the one that is 14, that starts with a scrapping of constitution. You want an end to corruption. Once the constitution is taken down, those provisions that engender corruption, that create corruption, that protect beneficiaries of corruption, will be the ones writing it. It won't be the one the people who wanted to steal wrote. So we change it. That's the where it will be changed. Every other thing that is on that list can only be attended to. Insecurity can only be attended to when you rewrite the arrangement for security, where the gun will be, who will have the authority to organize. Today, your governors cannot issue one rifle. Your governors cannot issue one rifle. Look at the number of governments and bureaucracies that we have to finance. 812. Local government has no business being inside constitution. But you go and load them into the place. Then the states, 36 in number, by the time there's no money left to do anything for you, quite apart from the fact that they said they won't do. There's even no money left, because by the time they finish paying the salaries and the bureaucracies, thousands of bureaucracies, because you see the federal government and the countless number of agencies, almost countless numbers of ministries and MDAs, the same thing at the states. By the time they finish paying themselves, nothing is left for the citizen. And all of them do not come to even 1%. All of those who are the government and the civil servants and the military and the police, all of them do not come to 2.2 million in number. Go and find out. Including all the people on their payroll, all of them do not come to 1% of the country's population. Why would the money Nigeria is earning is not enough to pay them now? They are borrowing into the future. Buhari pre-sold your crude oil. He sold oil that Shell and Mobil have not produced to foreigners, took the money and went doing whatever he liked in the Niger Republic and all kinds of places. 31 trillion of ways and means ways and means. That is money he didn't need to explain to anybody why he took from Emefiele. Trillion that he won. And so what we're back to, what do we do inside 2024 to take down that constitution? So that if we know exactly what to do, we can then frame our demand for government to give us an answer to these things we are saying. If we say, this constitution is what we want out of our life, what will compel them to answer you now? That is the action you need to take. You must now demand the transition. We are not anarchists. We are saying this constitution cannot be basis of governance. Quite apart from what went wrong with the election. Every day that constitution is in that place, no less than 5,000 people die. And it is only on account of the ignorance of these 230 million people that have become the embarrassment to the black man all over the world. That you allow a few people that could be locked into one building, all of them, that 1,500 people will fit into the country home of any one of them, any one governor. All of those managing Nigeria can fit into the kind of homes they build for themselves, and you lock them in there. That is it. That is how small the number is. But every 4 years, you go and line up and authorize them to carry on as they are doing. And you go back crying until another 4 years. They will come back again. Nobody is questioning them what they say, what they will do about that. Why do you go to vote? So we now say it is possible for us to insist on transition now, to go and rework this constitution that excludes us. That was what South Africa did to come out from apartheid. Or what is the difference between what we are in now and what the blacks in South Africa were in at the time in apartheid? So it is the action to take is to demand transition now. As a mark of your rejection, as a mark of insisting that that constitution be removed from where it is, ruining your life. Every other thing everybody is telling you that they're the ones who want to come and provide good governance under the constitution that guarantee the opposite. The ones that want to come and end corruption under the constitution that mandates and protects corruption. Whatever they tell you they're coming to do, they're lying to you. It's like the tap is on and they're telling you they're going to mop more expertly, that they know how to mop better. Ninas is saying, let us turn off the tap, and we can turn it off today, because if we now know the constitution is the tap, we know the solution is to turn off the tap, we know that election is the mechanism for renewing the life of that constitution, and we declare inside 2024 that nobody will come to talk about the election anymore. Political parties must close shop. If they come to you, anything you find they are the ones sucking your blood. They are the Judas goat. They are the ones delivering you to the enemy that is afar. All of them, no exception. No one is better than the other, because they all subscribe to that constitution that guarantees these atrocities against you. And they never wanted to tell you. And they use all the institutions to block you from knowing. The lawyers in the land, the Ozekomes, the Olisabakobas, the Falanas, and all of those who go to run their mouth on TV every day about human rights. Anybody that tells you he's a human rights lawyer in Nigeria, tell him he's a rogue. Why do we say so? Slaves don't have human rights. Under the 1999 Constitution, under this unitary constitution of Nigeria, you are slaves. You may think you're a citizen until you go to read what they wrote in the charter and put your signature there. And we have PhDs all over the place, thousands of PhDs all over the place. They don't know their left from their right, and the few who know are so terribly dishonest. You saw when the election tribunal came, 50 senior advocates per candidate. Where are those lawyers now in this discussion of life and death? And so the protesters will say to you, now that you know the problem, you know the solution, you know the mechanism, that if we say we are not going to election, immediately the oxygen is like unplugging the oxygen from that constitution. We can do it inside 2024. We can do it in course of this protest to say we are out there on the street. We are no longer going to listen to any other talk of what government might do, because whatever they tell you they're going to do, it's impossible for them to do. Not even the president, no matter how well intentioned he is. And it's not the business of National Assembly to go and rewrite the constitution for you. It's like the management you hire in a company, removing your name from memo and article of the company, and then putting their own names and becoming the owner of the enterprise. That's what happened to us since 1966. That they toppled the constitution that brought us together. And so, if the action that has to be taken is to take down that constitution, we have told you now what can be done in 2024 to choke the life out of that constitution, which is why Ninas is happy that at least the protesters have come to the preliminary, they've come to the corridor of where, if they listen a little more, they can now know what to write down as their demand. Let me tell you the benefit of going that route. And you can take this to the bank. If the protesters say that all the corruption, all the impunity, all the failures of the land are flowing from that constitution, and therefore they want the termination of the life of that constitution, they want a transition immediately to go and rework the constitutional basis of Nigeria, and that they reject further elections under that constitution. If you say you reject that constitution, that is the source of your torment, and you are preparing to go to election in 2027, you deserve whatever calamity befalls you, because you are dishonest. We have 3 years now. The candidates have not emerged. Everything is in your hand. And so, why don't you do something different for once to say, because it is in that demand, and which is why Ninas, is saying, why don't we adopt the one that has the charter of demands that can deliver the result? If what you want from this protest is to change the things that have been happening to you, we have shown you where it's coming from. We have shown you what to do. And we are only asking you to rework the demands, because every other thing listed in that demand will happen when you get to that transition. Therefore, the 5-point proposition of Ninas, back to the moderator that asked me, how do we make it happen? We needed to explain what the connections between all of them, so people can now say, yes, we know what the problem is. Yes, we know what the solution is. Yes, we know how to operationalize that solution. Reject any further national election under that constitution. And you must begin to say so inside 2024. You must demand transition now. Let that be the demand of that. Let that be of that protest. If it becomes the demand of that protest, now let me even very quickly run through those 5 points so that you can see the connection between what you are looking for and what Ninas placed on the table since 2020. Therefore, you can see why, if you adopt it now, the government has no answer for that, because we are only asking them to acknowledge what the reality is. This one you now know. If that becomes your demand, that as you're on the street, the government must acknowledge that it's not all the things they've been advertising all these many years, climate change and bad behavior in government house. It is the constitution. If you say they have to declare it, acknowledge it, that it is the unitary constitutional arrangement of Nigeria that has brought Nigeria to this sorry state and locked down the entire black race. That is the number one demand of that, in that 5-point proposition of NINAS. Just listen very quickly. Number one, a formal announcement by the federal government of Nigeria acknowledging the constitutional grievances and sovereignty dispute now declared by the peoples of the South and Middle. That is, the federal government to come down from its pretenses and accept that unitary constitution cannot operate a federal union, period. Second demand, that's our second proposition, a formal commitment by the federal government to the wholesale decommissioning and jettisoning of the 1999 Constitution as the basis of the Federation of Nigeria, as was done by the government of apartheid era South Africa in 1990, to commence the process by which the apartheid constitution of the then South Africa was eased out. That is our second demand, commitment. You see, the first one is formal announcement. The second one is formal commitment to decommission that constitution. The third proposition, the third demand, a formal announcement by the federal government of Nigeria suspending further general elections under the disputed 1999 constitution, since the winners will govern by that constitution. The untenable outcome of the 2023 presidential election must now be transformed into a transitioning process. You can see, we already showed you why the one who is in power now is only in power, but he does not have the authority of the people. The Supreme Court jettisoned the constitution to coronate him. It does not matter how much they try. We will not allow them place themselves above the instrument that created their institution. Others who don't know where their rights begin and where the law stops can continue to dance around with them. We told them point blank that what we have now is an interregnum. We're not quarreling with people being in government. After all, soldiers go to government house. Nobody goes to say they can't govern. They have power. But we're talking about authority that is credited to us as having mandated. The constitution is reason we're saying so. And the constitution is far above that Supreme Court and whatever brigandage they want to bring to town. And so, item 4, formal initiation of a time-bound transitioning to midwife the emergence of fresh constitutional protocols by a 2-stage process in which the constituent regional blocks will at the first stage distill and ratify their various constitutions by referendums and plebiscites, and in the second stage negotiate the terms of federating afresh as may be dictated by the outcomes of the federation. The meaning of that item 4 is to say, for the first time since 1914, let the owners of the sovereignties be the ones sitting on the table, everybody standing on his father's plot, to agree to be in union and to define the terms of that union by themselves. In 1914, the British did it without talking to the owners. In 1960, they continued with Ahmadu Bello and left all the guns in his hand. They are still holding those guns to this date. Obasanjo may come and pretend to be commander-in-chief for 8 years. Jonathan will come for 6 years. Tinubu has come now. Nothing has changed in the arrangement the British made to render you the slave you have always been under that constitution, under their impositions, And so the final point is what NINAS is doing, Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, will be the first time the owners of the land will be on the table to decide what will become their constitution. As long as you are not on the table, it is the kind of thing they decide among themselves that they will impose on you. And they have their agents, the willing tools from your backyard and my backyard. They ring a bell, they gather in Abuja, and they all agree because there's enough to share. That's why all the constitutional conferences have not worked. Because even in some of our people will say, oh, let's go to 2014 conference. ignorance and to some extent dishonesty by those who know. In 2014, it was the interface between this project and President Jonathan of the time that conference was called. The modalities that would have solved the problem were at the last minute jettisoned by people who now ganged up to push him through the window, seize the reins of power by violence. The brigands that came in 2015, led by the very one who is president now, there could have been no better punishment for what, let me not call it punishment. There would have been no better reward, because reward can be positive or negative. So the people who did all of what was done in the period, fabricating all kinds of tales of lies, than allowing them to win election to come and govern that Nigeria that they refuse to repair. And so we're saying that item 4 in that 5 points is to initiate a time-bound transitioning process to allow the owners of Nigeria who are federating to discuss their union and codify the outcome. Number 5, a formal invitation to the stakeholders to place a transition authorities that will specify the modalities of the transition, every other thing that has to be done to make it happen. And so these 5 points is actually one proposition, one transitioning proposition to rework the basis of Nigeria, the constitutional arrangements of Nigeria. But we broke it into 5 to make clear what exactly has to be done, who will do it, when it will be done, how it will be done, and how it can all be operationalized to become the replacement of. So it is end-to-end encryption. Nobody can add or subtract except you are looking for another product. And so we're inviting those who are going to protest to say it is this constitution that we want out of our lives, because it is responsible for all the things we are complaining about. And we want transition now to go and fix it. Once you do that, the government that is sitting on the illicit, on that fraud, they are not in any position to quarrel with you, because we went to court in 2007 to challenge them on that fraud. They had no answer. The Attorney General came to court, they had no answer. They can never, if they fire one shot, if this becomes your demand, and we have told you how all the other things you are talking about, this one of reduce the price of that, reduce the price of this. Yes, those ones are things, the additions to you. If you raise this demand, if you raise this more important demand that settles everything else, because it already targets their seat is already gone. That power they exercise is flowing from that constitution. So if that constitution is what you target your energies on, they will be on their knees. You only need to say it the way we ask you to say it. And that's why we are saying, don't try to model it all up by bringing all kinds of things that give them room to escape from you. Let us make it so watertight. This is what we want, according to these 5 points, so that they will know exactly, because I'm sure you listen to some of them who say, we don't even know what they're looking for. We don't even know what they're looking for. If you truly want change, we have defined the change, because we can tell you authoritatively that the day you do what we ask you to do, the peoples of Nigeria reject that constitution, and we go to transition to write another one. What will come out from it? Because some people will say, oh, is it not the same Nigerians? When we write our own constitution, how are we going to allow this kind of math? They won't even go to contest election, because then they will require your vote. Then you are the ones who have written the accounting system into that constitution. They won't be able to get to where the money is kept in the treasury. Go to the US and go and take $1 million from the treasury. Let's see how many heads you have. Even $10,000. If they find out, you are gone. Why is there this much impunity in Nigeria? It's because the rules were set, the rules of the security of the community were set by the thieves who benefit from what they. So don't let anybody tell you about 2014. They did not. They changed the modalities into everybody come. They appointed their friends and they began to discuss nonsense. It is a two-stage procedure in which the owners of the land will be first identified. Then, in the second, they go to discuss whether they want to federate. And it is in the third compartment that they begin to write what they've agreed upon that will become a constitution. I think, moderator, sir, that will be my answer for what you asked about how that 5-point proposition relates to what is going on and how it can become the solution for those who are about to protest. Are you the
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Okay. And so I would hand over to my assistant to lead us to the question and answer section before I come in again. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. The floor is open for questions and comments. Before we begin, I'd like to establish some ground rules to ensure a productive and respectful discussion. Please keep your comments concise and relevant to the topic at hand. Maintain a respectful tone and avoid personal attacks or inflammatory language. Keep your phone on silent mode and avoid background distractions while speaking. By adhering to these guidelines, we can ensure a smooth and meaningful conversation. Thank you for your cooperation. To raise your hand, check on the heart icon located at the bottom right corner of your screen, then select the raise hand options. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think somebody has requested to speak. I would
invite him.
I'll invite you in now. Please, like you have heard, be concise, straight to the point, and be civil, please. Thank you. Okay, you have the floor now. Your name and where you are calling from, as well as your questions. Thank you. Dameola, I've invited you to speak. Yeah, I can hear you. Carry on.
Good evening, everybody. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Good evening. Carry on.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Professor Nadi, I don't know if I'm right, sir. Are you there, sir?
Yes, no title at all. Just Mr. Tony Nadi. I happen to be a lawyer.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No title at all.
No, no. You deserve that. You deserve the title of barrister Tony Nadi. Yeah, I prefer that.
I prefer not to be addressed as such. I prefer to be called Mr. Nadi.
Okay.
Do you call Obama Barrister Obama? Is he not a lawyer? Did you call Mandela Barrister Mandela? Our people have messed up everything humanity put together by the things we do.
I understand quite all right where you're coming from, sir. You know,
let's go.
Yeah. I understand.
Thank you.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, sir. Mr. Nadi, I was fortunate to have seen your videos on YouTube. And today I have not been in the best of states. So far, so good, as a result of the situation in the country and personal affairs. So, but while scrolling through the spaces, I saw, because I followed you as a result of the YouTube videos, and I put you on notification node. So when I saw you speaking in a space like this, I was wow, like I even thought that the space is going to be filled with lots of people. But then I came in and I listened to you. I came in not quite long, like a few minutes ago, and I was able to at least get one or two things regarding the point you are trying to make. I think they relate to what you have been saying on the YouTube videos and here and there. And I'm really glad to be opportune to speak to you right now because I've got quite a number of questions for you, sir. Firstly, before I go on, sir, you must realize this, the point I'm coming from. I do not believe in this hellfire of a country. For me, I see it as hellfire. I don't know. That's what I call it. That's what I tell people. This hellfire is not Nigeria, it's hellfire. So I have listened to your points so far, so good here on YouTube, and I've come to realize that you are trying to make, you're always emphasizing on constitution. You know, at the point in time when I was so fervent and arguing on spaces here and there, uh, with the likes of the AAC people, Labour Party people on their spaces, I always refer to the constitution, the mere fact that the constitution, even though I've not been able to study it deeply, I've been able to realize that the constitution is filled with quite numbers of decrees, like it's modeled after the what's it called, the military regime. So, and that is why I keep on telling the young lawyers around me, or those who have gone to study law here, say, I'm not, even because I've always wanted to study international law before I decided to go study linguistics in school, English linguistics precisely.
So what's your question? What's your question? Because a lot of people are also waiting to speak.
I'm sorry, sir. Yeah. So my question is this, sir. The Constitution, do you think that if the Constitution should be transformed, don't you think it's going to negate the ideology of people like me who believe that this country needs to be disintegrated and disintegrated peacefully?
Hold on. What is the demand and campaign of Ninas? What do you from all of what you have seen?
Okay, sir.
Did you ever hear Nina talk about transforming of constitution? So your question is already wrong.
Change. When I mean change, it means that the previous what's it called?
No, not a matter
I
of
think
change.
I should not use it.
We said the commission dismantled. We say it's a fraud to be totally jettisoned. Is that not what you're talking about?
Yes, exactly, sir. That it should be done
now. If it is done away with, do you think you still have a union?
Yeah,
you don't have a union.
Okay.
And it is when you go to what we ask, you don't understand what we're doing, and you think you do, and therefore you take a position in that thinking that you do understand what we're saying. We're saying we don't have a union. Once that constitution hijacked your sovereignty, my sovereignty, the sovereignty of our neighbors, the Nigeria is a fraud. Is that not what we have been saying every morning?
Yes, exactly, sir.
So that you don't understand that when that constitution say we the people solemnly resolve to live together, it's saying that you, the Yoruba, he, the Ijaw, she, the Berom, have solemnly agreed, solemnly resolved to live together. So it's a lie. We're saying that the entire thing is a lie. Taking down that constitution brings you to where your sovereignty comes back to you. Did I not talk about the agitations of people who are fed up? It is when they get to that transition, that stoppage of what Nigeria is doing in their spaces and get into that transition. It is in that two-stage procedure, in that two-stage process for reworking that constitution, that everybody will then decide in the first stage whether they want to federate with anybody else. And if they want to, then they decide the terms. So if Yoruba doesn't want to be in union with the people who are killing them, they say so. They are standing on their land. The sovereignty belongs to them. It is because the people who are the ones who say they want Oodua Republic, the ones who say they want Biafra Republic, the ones who say they want Niger Delta resource control, it is because they have not examined what we have in black and white before them, and they're going about like people who are blindfolded on the highway. If trailer does not jam them, they will fall into gutter, or even keke can knock them into a passing trailer. That's what has been happening. You can see, like you already observed, they don't know that what you are doing is the shortest cut, the safest pathway. If all of us say we don't want to be in union, as long as we have organized ourselves sufficiently, it is by referendum that we settle that. But if the people who are living in that damnation prefer to work with ignorance, what can we do? The prison gate is open. We have defeated that constitution. But because of ignorance, it is still operating. They will get another election if nothing stops them now. But you want Oodua Republic. The other people say they want Biafra Republic. We have put a pathway through which all that can be attained in a matter of months if we choose to work with knowledge instead of ignorance. That's what it is. What are your other questions?
Okay.
Because you now know that what you would have preferred is embedded in what we have, but you did not know. Go ahead with the other question.
Okay. Thanks for the way you explained the whole thing now. My second question is, having spoken and argued with recent political parties, Showore party precisely, they came with a point. They are like, once they come in, they will review the constitution.
Again, stop. Again, stop. Did you say review? Did you say review?
Yes, review, modify, and everything. That is what.
Tell them they are ignorant and dishonest. What they are saying is not worthy of this time we are spending on it, because they know the truth. Is it government that make constitution? Why have all the other people who got there not done it? It's not matter for review. We have not made a constitution. Period. We don't have a union. And they're going to learn the hard way.
Okay,
he will come to invite. What he's doing now, let me explain to you. What he's doing now in trying to lead you to protest is to position himself to be the one, because he said constitution, and you hear us saying constitution, then you trust him that he will even say he will do it, like he has already said. But the mechanism for making constitution is not the president, not the National Assembly, not all the people in government times 10. The sovereignty belongs to Yoruba that can decide not to be in Nigeria. It's only the day the Yoruba come to say, okay, I wish to federate with Ijo, that you now have a union. So if he's telling you to let him come in and you are listening to him, then you are digging your own grave. He will be in New York when the next round of election happens, and you'll be here, sinking deeper into your pot, into the hole you dug. It's not matter for government to come and do. We have to stop. Either we dissolve the union now, or we agree on how we can be one union. I won't be in one political union with people who do not hold human life sacrosanct. Those who are doing Sharia, they owe it a duty of faith to kill others as infidels. How am I to be in one union in which a champion of Sharia, can become commander-in-chief that will have to organize my security for me? What am I going to get in that kind of a setting? I won't be in one union with feudalists who believe that all men are not born equal. It is the constitution that settles all those things, whether you want to be in union at all with anybody, and if yes, on what terms. That is where you now begin to talk about structure, autonomy, exclusive list, and all such system of government. The Nigeria we have now is a fraud that has to be dismantled. But if the people who are living in the place are refusing to listen for how it can be done, then they deserve to perish. They've not suffered, though. They're going to suffer for the Bible already condemned them to death. He said they will perish for lack of knowledge.
Okay, sir. Yeah. I must be honest with you. I really, really admire your conviction, because it aligns with my conviction also. But then going forward, sir, it's without saying that there's so much ignorance out there. There are only few people like you and I who understand quite all right the power of the Constitution, the power of rules and regulation when it comes to anything that has to do with governance. Going forward, sir, you made a particular point that the agitators who have gotten the knowledge and the light that this union, this federation, and the constitution that binds together is the main target. And now you made a point. You said that there's a part to destroy this constitution that binds, that is causing this main issue. I would like to know, what is the part that you suggested or you know about? I would like to know about, because so far so good. There is problem that I know regarding the agitations here and there. And sometimes when I think about these things,
Please round up your
it makes
question. Please round up your
yeah,
question. It's
yeah,
taking so
yeah,
much.
yeah. I'm actually running up. I think
Thank
you understand me better the way I'm putting it. Yeah. So that is my question. So my question is, what is the pathway that I would like to be knowledgeable about this pathway that you feel is a right path for the people who have gotten hold of this light, this education, So that's it, sir.
Well, we place the entire proposition before the country for all of those who are complaining about, including those who want to leave the union, including those who want regional autonomy and who want restructuring and all good governance and all kinds of things. That proposition is the constitutional force majeure of December 16, 2020. You only need to either get on our website or just Google, search around, you find it. It's all over the place. Foreign governments have acted on it. The only people who are not interested in it are the ones who are living in the hell. Because it is in that force majeure that we have this 5-point proposition that provides a transitioning. Because there's Nigeria and there are Nigerians who are trapped here against their will. And we're saying, let all of those Nigerians, both the ones who want and the ones who don't want, come to the point where by referendum, they can sort out what they want and what they don't want. They stand on their father's plots, delineated. They agree to be or not to be in an orderly form. Because if you say, oh, give me Oodua Republic now, they are going to stand on that constitution and shoot you. The only time you can insist on anything is you take down that constitution, because you are the one who have to, the sovereignty belongs to you. The right to self-determination accrues to you on account of that sovereignty. As long as Yoruba land has not been conquered by any other group, sovereignty belongs to them. The right to self-determination belongs to them, both inalienable, both the sovereignty and the right to self-determination, inalienable. Everybody who has gone to hit their head against the wall in search of Yoruba nation somewhere in the sky, they are ignorant, many of them dishonest. The ones whom we have sat with, the ones who say Biafra Republic, those ones are even worse, because we not only sat with them, they know the truth, but they want to make money. If the constitution is taken down, the union is at an end, then those who want to be in union will go to another meeting. If there's a majority, they will say so by referendum. Why can't we do the first things first? Take down that constitution. Whatever is going to happen will then become our decision. But if we sit inside the prison compound and we're running our mouth, singing all kinds of songs and waving all kinds of flags, we're just deceiving ourselves until it gets to our turn to be beheaded.
Sorry, you made mention of a particular site that I could make research regarding. Could you please
go to www.ninasvoice.org. All the documents are there. That constitutional force majeure.
Okay, sir.
That constitutional force majeure. Go, and we have those broadcasts you are seeing. Those broadcasts you see. They're over 410 or going to 420 now. Any 2 or 3 you randomly select, can lead you to all the information. Foreign governments are acting on it. But black man does not read anything. He thinks he knows what he doesn't know until he dies in his ignorance. So go and see it.
So, what do you think about the role of the traditional rulers regarding this whole thing going on? I mean, the
sovereignty. Their grandfathers were rulers of their kingdoms. They were sovereign rulers of their kingdom. The Shekiri kingdom, for instance, in the 15th century, that's as far back as 1480, 1490, had diplomatic mission in Portugal. The Benin Kingdom was there long before many of these countries sprang up. They had their sovereignties. There was the Oyo Kingdom, and that's in fact empire. There were all kinds of other. And so, at the point the foreigners came and confiscated their sovereignty, and then they began to cooperate with them. That cooperation had been going on. They became, so in the eastern part, they coronated some of them warrant chiefs. And then one thing led to the other. Today, those traditional rulers are plugged into the network of how your blood is sucked and shed. 5% of the money allotted to local governments every month go to their pockets. They are ready to kill to retain it. They don't want anything that will change it. You are the ones who have to free yourself. You are the ones, they traded off your sovereignty, and they're taking their own part of the benefit without talking to you. So they are cooperating with that enemy that imposed this constitution, and they are plugged to 5% of all the money you hear about. That's what comes to them. And it's a lot of money.
So going forward, because I have come to realize that the traditional rulers, they have a lot of stake to take regarding the development of this reality that I, as a president, and people like me and you desire. So
if you don't remove the constitution that make it impossible for anybody to do anything, every other thing you are doing is a waste of time, including you and your traditional rulers. Well, did they not behead them in Ekiti? Do they have any guns of their own? The land is yours. You allowed Nigeria to take it, and they put your signature as the one who authorized it. And they're holding an election, and you call it democracy with them. And you are 60 million people. As it is with you, our own people, 70 million people in the eastern half of southern Nigeria. If you don't topple this constitution, our sovereignty is gone. And Fulani is coming for the land, though. Don't think everything is going to remain where they are. Fulani is coming for the land because they've locked you down with that constitution. You can't touch God. If they see you with gun, they fire you. If that constitution is not toppled, the land is already their own. You saw what the Supreme Court did the other day to put local government under the care of the federal government. So INEC in Abuja will be conducting election in your village. You know who they will coronate. Your governors will not be able, the traditional rulers that get 5% for themselves, your land, are they not the ones managing the ancestral lands? Ruga, all over the place. That's where we are now, except that constitution is taken down. We can continue to argue with the signboard on this matter.
So I was going to ask.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Please. So we can take other people, please. You know what you do? Just put down your question. We'll host Tony Nadi again on a question and answer session where you can come and ask all your various questions you have. We'll have a separate session for that. Okay, please. If we would stay here throughout today, we will not finish the questions. We'll have a separate session where you come and ask your questions and you get your answer. As well as joining, the movement, you can learn every other thing you need to learn from there. Thank you very much. Hand over to my sister. Thank you.
Any more questions from the audience? I can't see any hands raised. So my co-host, in the absence of, we have told you, Mr. Dami, no more questions from you, please, for now. There are no more hands raised, so maybe we'll just take one last question from Mr. Dami. Okay. Unmute your mic, Mr. Dami. Your last question, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. I must be honest, I've really been educated so far, so good. By you, sir. Um, I was going to emphasize on the mere fact that the traditional rulers, I don't know, in my own little knowledge, I feel like they have a lot of power to ensure that this whole thing ends. I mean, the
Mr.
constitution
Dami, we will
that
not
has
take
some.
this your question now. You have to leave your details the comment box and we'll get back to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, man. Okay, man.
Yes. My co-host, please, you have the floor for the next topic on the agenda. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll take the reports from my team. Taking into account all that was shared here today, we reach the following conclusion. One, that the unitary constitution of Nigeria is the tap from which the failures and dysfunctions of Nigeria, as well as the woes and mysteries of Nigeria, follow, including corruption, impunity, insecurity, economic freefall, mass poverty, unemployment, agitations, infrastructural decay, serial electoral malfeasance, mass hopelessness, and disillusionment. Two, that the solution to Nigeria is the wholesale decommissioning of the 1999 Constitution, not amendments or forms of legislative action just as South Africa apartheid constitution was jettisoned and decommissioned from 1990 to 1994. Three, that the mechanism for taking down the 1999 constitution is the immediate shutting down of preparations for further national elections under that constitution as a mark of our rejection of that constitution, since election is the mechanism by which the life of the constitution is renewed every 4 years. And since the winner of the election must swear to and govern by that constitution, the election shutdown referred to here is not an election boycott. Number four, that the action required now to trigger the election shutdown that will precipitate the decommissioning of the 1999 Constitution is to demand immediately in 2024 the initiation of a transition process to renegotiate and rework the fundamentally flawed basis of Nigeria in place of another round of election in 2027 under the 1999 Constitution. Five, that the NINA's 5-point proposition for the constitutional reconstruction of Nigeria, which essentially requires the federal government of Nigeria to acknowledge that the unitary constitutional arrangement of Nigeria is reason for the dysfunctions and failure of Nigeria, and to therefore expressly commit to the wholesale constitutional reconstruction of Nigeria in two-stage procedure stipulated by NINA's proposition, which offers Nigeria the most immediate, most valuable framework for an orderly renegotiation, reconfiguration, and reconstruction of the distressed Federation of Nigeria in the face of widespread disputations over the Nigerian Union and the drift towards anarchy. In light of the foregoing, it is recommended that the demand of the protest, which already listed the scrapping of 1999 Constitution as a principal demand, will become exponentially more realizable if reinforced by the express adaptation of the NINA's 5-point proposition, as that will make the protest demand more definitive and therefore offer the best prospect of a definitive response from government in a manner that can truly resolve the long-standing distortions of the Nigerian Federation, which was culminated in the dysfunctions and failures now being protested. Thank you. And I yield the mic.
In the same vein, take the closing remark, please.
The closing remark. In closing, we have heard all that leaders have said. There is no doubt in our mind on the way forward for Nigeria. The only solution, definitive solution that is immediate definitive solution for Nigeria is to go after the 1999 Constitution. That's enough, and that alone is enough as a demand, because within that demand are all other demands that we are looking at. And so let us be prepared. Let us also share these things, because the record will be available. After this meeting, the record will be available for as long as it will be. So for those who are not able to come, maybe because of one or two reasons, share it to them. Let the message continue to spread so that we can be aware and be informed, because we're moving in ignorance. I've stated that anger is not a strategy. Going out, gallivanting the place is not a strategy. It will only give the government more opportunity to commit mayhem, because they will tell you that they are keeping law and order. But when you come with questioning the foundation upon which they stand, you can begin to tackle them effectively. Let us rise up with this information. Let's not be selfish with it. Let us reach out to our friends, loved ones, because everybody's in danger, whether home and abroad. I think with that being said, I will thank you very much for coming and for being a part of this meeting. We'll have this meeting subsequently more times so that we'll continue to inform Nigerians. And so, thank you very much. I yield the mic.
Mr. Nadi, please, we would love to hear your final thoughts before the announcement. Thank you.
Yes, just to thank everybody that came. The only thing I will reemphasize is that aspect of where a definitive demand will compel a definitive answer. This is what it means. When you have a clear-cut demand that cannot be misunderstood or misinterpreted or distorted, it's in writing, it has starts to finish. That is to say, this is what we want done, this is how we want it done, this is when we want it done, and the response, that's why we had to emphasize the words we used, and we're inviting those who seek this change to adopt those words to compel the response from the other side. We say an acknowledgement. That is something that can be done by an announcement. Announcement acknowledging. Commitment to. So you are not asking the government to decommission that constitution that same day, but you are insisting that they must commit to decommissioning. You are insisting that they must commit openly, formally, to suspending further talk of national elections, that they must commit to the two-stage procedure to go and sort out that matter during that transition that will take the place of election, and that they must now commit to a time-bound announcement of when these things will be done. Once that demand is put forward in that watertight manner, it will not take more than 3 days for the government to come to where it cannot pretend it doesn't understand. The government has to give an answer to those specifics, because you are not asking them to do any particular thing than to respond to this specific. They are not going to be able to say that the constitution is not the problem. They already have taken steps to show that the constitution is all the problem. They try to write another one in the backyard, and we stop them. They are not going to acknowledge that the constitution is a problem and now say, give us, we will hang on to it, because this crowd is gearing up for them to come to stop them in all the madness going on. They cannot accept that the constitution is the problem and that they will decommission it and begin to talk about another election that will happen again. So you have locked them into into demands that they cannot find any other viable answers, except they decide to shoot all of those who are complaining, which is not possible. They are not going, they have no capacity. You are only just thinking because they have found a way to make it look like they can always say, why are they running all over the place now? Go to the airports and see how many of them are still left here. And so it is within our reach to just say this. If we have been the ones confronting them, but when they look in our direction, they don't see they go back to doing what they are doing to keep that multitude asleep, including occultic manipulations. Rituals are done for mass hypnosis. What do they call it? Hypnosis. Rituals are done. I'm sure we remember the former governor of Sokoto, Bafarawa. At the time they were investigating how Dasuki, the former NSA, distributed the $2 billion they say they shared out. A former governor of Sokoto accounted for what came to him, $4 billion for Marabout. That is occultic manipulation. So if you do not realize that the people who are sharing trillions every month are taking steps to keep you in your ignorance, then you better hear it and know it. That's part of what they're doing, apart from removing history and civic studies and all kinds of things, and getting the church leaders to block you from hearing anything, and getting the media to block this information from getting on their major platforms, and getting the political parties to drag you to to elections every 4 years. They are all together in that coven where your blood is shed. And so definitive demand, that is why we say defining the change we seek and distilling the demands that will deliver that outcome. They dare not, that is the protection. That is the protection for those who are heading into because once you raise that demand, it changes the entire equation. And it does not take anything from you to say the correct thing that disarms your enemy. Every other thing you say gives them a podium to stand, to shoot at you, to contain you, to divide you, to throw money at you, through intimidation at others. And so they can't find any answers, any other answers to these 5 points if that is what you adopt as your demand. And it's reduced to one. We want this constitution out. We want transition immediately so that we can go and rework the unworkable unitary constitution that has brought Nigeria to all of its catastrophes. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that announcement to end today's section. Thank you for your participation and engagement in today's meeting. We are pleased to note that this gathering marks a significant milestone in our ongoing outreach and interface with NINAS. As we continue today's section, as we conclude today's section, please be informed that this is just the first in a series, and we'll have many more sections in consultation with all sides. The sessions could be weekly and emergency sections when needed. We shall keep you informed. Thank you again for your time and engagement, and I wish you all a great day. If you have any questions or require